Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a universal experience, something I think almost everyone has encountered. I want you to picture this. It's your birthday, maybe a holiday. You tear open a gift, you're excited, and then, well, it's something you have absolutely no use for. You smile, you say thank you, but inside you're just wondering, why on earth did they think I needed this?
It's a scenario most of us have been in, for sure. And usually it happens because the person giving the gift assumed they knew what you wanted. They didn't really take the time to understand what you might, actually need.
Exactly. Now, just imagine applying that same dynamic to product design. Companies can spend millions on tools that users end up ignoring. Why? Because they don't solve the right problem. Today, we are looking at the antidote to that. It's a concept called co-design.
Co-design is, in essence, the practice of creating a solution with the person who will use it, not just building it for them. It shifts the user from being a passive recipient to a very active partner in the whole creation process.
And to explore this, we've got a fascinating source today. It's a transcript from a workshop titled Successful Product Design Thanks to Co-Design. It documents a real-time interaction between two complete strangers, Viral and Yuri. Their mission: to design the best present ever for each other in under 2 hours.
And what makes this workshop so compelling are the constraints they were working under. This was not some loose, open-ended brainstorming session. They had very strict time limits, sometimes as short as 2 minutes for each step.
And there's another layer here, a very specific context regarding accessibility. The workshop is designed to be inclusive, specifically for people with visual impairments. And this influences everything, right down to the materials they use.
That's correct. In a typical design workshop, you'd see sticky notes and whiteboards all over the place. Here, the source lists very tactile tools: wire cores, what you might call pipe cleaners, modeling compound, cardboard, and high-contrast pens.
I saw a detail in that materials list that I found quite interesting. They explicitly say not to use tape.
Yes, because for a visually impaired user, tape can be a real problem. It gets entangled, you can't see where it begins or ends, and that just leads to frustration. So instead they use things like glue sticks or poster putty. It just highlights how the environment itself has to be adapted to make the in co-design possible.
So we have our setting. We have Viral, who's the designer or interviewer, and Yuri, the end user. They don't know each other well. Phase one is discovery. And right away, there's a rule that I think would make this incredibly difficult. Viral is not allowed to ask, "What gift do you want?"
That's the golden rule, because if you ask a user what they want, they'll often just describe a solution they've already imagined, or they might not even know it's possible.
Yeah.
The goal here is to discover a latent need, something they might not even realize is a problem.
So Viral starts asking these general questions. Who are you? What do you do in your spare time? And we get a pretty interesting profile of Yuri.
We do. Yuri is, well, he's a complex person. He has a background in art, he enjoys crafting, he walks his dog. But the detail that really stood out to me was his relationship with yoga.
Yes, he said he was surprised by how much energy it gave him, even though it's relaxing. He seems like someone who's very active, maybe a little too active. He admitted he was struggling to find time just to enjoy himself.
And that's where the detective work begins. Virtel is listening to all this, trying to find some kind of pattern or a friction point. She moves into the problem analysis stage. The workshop gives them a formula for this. Name would like need because insight.
And this is where we see the first big hurdle, what we could call the false start. Vera looks at her notes. She sees that Yuri has a daughter studying abroad, so she forms a hypothesis. She writes, Yuri would like to stay part of his daughter's life because she is studying abroad. It sounds logical, doesn't it?
It's a very human assumption to make. We hear daughter abroad, and our minds jump to loneliness or separation. But this is why that verification step is so crucial. The designer has to prevent this needs statement back to the user.
And Yuri just shuts it down.
Politely, but yes, effectively. He tells her, I don't think that's what I should focus on. He's accepted his daughter's absence as a normal part of life. If Viral had just gone off and designed some high-tech video calling device based on her assumption, it would have been that unwanted gift we talked about at the start.
That's such a pivotal moment. You can't just guess. So they have to dig deeper. Virla asks him about his work-life balance again. And Yuri admits he works longer than he should. Then he reveals the culprit, the digital registration of his activities.
Administrative work. The great enemy of creativity. Yuri explains the programs aren't user-friendly. He likes his job, he likes his students, but he really dislikes the PC work that comes with it.
So they revise the problem statement. The new goal is, Yuri would like to finish his PC work on time because he dislikes administrative tasks.
Now they have a solid foundation. They've moved from a sort of sentimental assumption to a very practical operational pain point. And this sets the stage for phase two, divergent thinking.
I found the method they used here really effective. To get the creative ideas flowing, they're asked to imagine how fictional characters would solve the problem.
It's a classic lateral thinking technique. If you ask, how do we solve this? People tend to be a bit conservative. But if you ask, how would Superman solve this? All the usual constraints just disappear.
So let's look at the ideas they came up with. Viral had some interesting ones. She suggested writing tasks on paper to track time manually, and also a colleague alarm.
A colleague alarm, yes. Solution 3, a colleague knocks on the door 15 minutes before the end of the day. It's low tech, but it could be effective. Yuri laughed at that one. Apparently, he'd already tried asking someone to remind him.
Viral also suggested an auto shutdown timer for the PC. 5 minutes to go and the computer just turns off.
Which is incredibly risky. Yuri pointed that out right away. The danger of losing unsaved work. It solves one problem, but creates a much, much bigger one.
Then we have Yuri's ideas. He suggested using AI to write reports, which is very current. He also suggested taking a typing course, which almost felt like he was blaming himself for the inefficiency.
That's quite common. Users often blame their own lack of skill for what is fundamentally bad design. But he also threw in a joke solution. Look forward to retirement.
We've all been there. But somewhere in all these jokes and risky ideas, they started to see elements that could actually work. And this leads us to phase 3, convergent thinking. This is where they synthesize the best parts of all those different ideas.
Precisely. They didn't just pick one winner. They acted like chefs, taking ingredients from different recipes. They liked the AI idea, and they liked the idea of voice recordings.
Right. Yuri had mentioned he talks to students all day long. So the idea was, why type up notes later? Why not just record a voice summary right after the meeting?
And then use AI to convert that recording into text and format it for the report. That handles the data entry problem. But they still needed to solve the leaving on time problem.
So they went back to the timer idea, but they refined it based on Yuri's earlier feedback. Instead of the computer shutting down and potentially killing his work,
They decided it should just create an annoying, audible, and visible alarm. It's a nudge rather than a force. And importantly, they explicitly rejected one of Yuri's own ideas. He had suggested taking the laptop home to finish work.
right, and Viral pushed back. She asked, isn't that a risk to work longer? They realized that taking the laptop home would violate the core need, which was to reclaim his free time. So they took that off the table.
This really shows the power of co-design. The designer can act as a mirror, helping the user see the contradictions in their own thinking.
So they have the concept, an AI-powered voice-to-text reporting system with a go-home alarm. Now they have to prototype it. But since this is software, they can't exactly build it out of pipe cleaners.
No, but they can still define the constraints. The workshop uses what's called an is and is not list. It's a brilliant tool for avoiding scope creep and misunderstandings down the line.
Let's walk through that list. Under is, they had things like usable with Yuri's current PC skills and usable without administrator rights.
That second one is such a crucial real-world constraint. Yuri's an employee. He can't just install any software he wants. If the solution needed admin rights, it would be dead on arrival.
And under is not, they added something very important, is not something that violates GDPR regulations.
That was Virla's contribution. As the designer, she's bringing in that regulatory context. Recording student conversations has huge privacy implications. You can't just record everything.
It really shows the balance. Yuri knows his problem, but Viral knows the systemic boundaries. Together, they find a way through.
And since they couldn't build a physical model, they created a storyboard. It's a technique where you map out the whole user journey, before, during, and after.
So, before. Yuri gets approval from IT, very realistic, and he blocks out his calendar. Do not disturb for talks, and then a block for admin.
During. He finishes a talk with a student. He takes a photo of his handwritten notes, another feature they added in, or he records a voice summary. The AI converts it instantly.
And after. It's 15 minutes before the end of the day. A countdown appears on his screen. When it hits 0, the PC starts blinking and beeping.
So Yuri saves his work. He sees his colleagues reacting to this noise, and that's his social cue to pack up and leave. It creates a kind of ritual out of ending the workday.
It's a complete workflow. And to think, they started with, maybe he misses his daughter.
Yeah.
They arrived at this complex, tech-integrated solution in less than an hour of active work.
It really demonstrates the efficiency of the process. And this brings us to the theoretical framework mentioned in the source material, the double diamond.
Can you break that down for us? What exactly is the double diamond?
We'll imagine two diamond shapes, one after the other. The first diamond represents the problem. You start at a point and you diverge, or open up, that's the discovery phase, gathering all that information about Yuri's life. Then you converge, or narrow down, that's defining the specific need about the admin work.
So the first diamond is all about finding the right problem to solve.
Correct. And the second diamond is about finding the right solution. You open up again, that's the brainstorming with superheroes and colleagues. Then you narrow down again to converge on the specific AI and timer combination. Open, close, open, close.
It seems so structured, but the outcome feels so, organic to the user.
That's the beauty of it. The structure provides a kind of safety. It stops you from just jumping to the first solution that comes into your head. The workshop transcript notes that without this kind of process, assistive devices often suffer from high abandonment rates.
That makes perfect sense. If a device is annoying or it makes you feel stigmatized or just doesn't solve the actual problem you have, you'll put it in a drawer and never look at it again.
Exactly. And for people with visual impairments, the stakes are even higher. Standard design processes are often heavily visual sketching on whiteboards, looking at mock-ups. This workshop really emphasized a tactile kind of co-design. By using audio descriptions and physical objects, they made sure the user could fully participate.
It's interesting that even though their final output was a piece of software, the process of getting there was so verbal and tactile.
It forces a different kind of clarity. When you have to describe an idea out loud because your partner can't see a sketch, you have to be precise. You can't hide behind a vague drawing.
So what does this all mean for the average person? Most of our listeners aren't designing software for the visually impaired, but there is a lesson here for everyone, isn't there?
Absolutely. The core lesson is about assumptions. Whether you're planning a project with a colleague or buying a gift for a spouse, we so often operate on those phase one assumptions. We just think we know what people need.
Yuri misses his daughter.
Right. We act on Yuri is his daughter, when the reality is Yuri hates paperwork. Co-design teaches us to just pause, to ask, is this actually the problem? And is this the solution you would design for yourself?
It shifts the dynamic from I am solving this for you to we are solving this together.
And that shared ownership is just so powerful.
Mhm.
When Yuri leaves that workshop, he's not just receiving a solution, he's invested in it. He helped build it. He understands why all the constraints exist.
It's a powerful reminder that the best ideas often come from that collision of two different perspectives. Viral brought the process, Yuri brought the lived experience. Neither of them could have reached that solution alone.
And they did it by following a script that forced them to listen. That's the underrated tool here. The time limits, the interview rules, they're all just mechanisms to force active listening.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to that moment with the typing course. You mentioned users often blame themselves. I think that's something many listeners might relate to.
It's a significant point. When we struggle with a product, our default is often, I'm not smart enough, or I'm too slow. But in design thinking, if the user struggles, the product is at fault, not the user. Yuri thinking he needed a typing course was him trying to adapt himself to the machine. The co-design process flipped that completely and adapted the machine to him.
That's a very liberating thought. It suggests our frustrations are often valid design critiques, not personal failings.
Indeed, it empowers the user to demand better tools.
We are coming to the end of our deep dive. We've gone from bad birthday gifts all the way to AI-powered productivity workflows. It has been quite a journey.
It certainly has. It shows that innovation doesn't always need a genius in a tower. Sometimes it just requires two strangers, a few pipe cleaners, and a willingness to ask the right questions.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. Think about a problem you're currently facing, a nagging task at work maybe, or a frustration at home. Now, imagine you had to design a solution, but you had to do it using the persona of a superhero or a fictional character.
How would Batman solve your laundry problem? Or how would Sherlock Holmes organize your email inbox?
It sounds a bit silly, but as we saw with Verla and Yuri, sometimes you have to go to the extreme to find the practical. If you want to learn more about the science behind this workshop, the source material points to the website tactiles.eu.
It's a great resource for understanding how to make design more inclusive.
That is all for today's deep dive. We will catch you next time with more insights. Thanks for listening.
Co-funded by the European Union. The European Union's support for the production of this publication does not constitute endorsement of the contents, which reflects the views only of the authors, and the European Union cannot be held responsible for any use which may be made of the information contained therein.